When Calder reaches for his gun, it's not Cole who wins the moment. She steps forward. She speaks. For the first time, the town hears her voice, calm, steady, unafraid. That moment matters more than the gun ever could, because the power shifts. She is no longer a victim being defended. She is a woman choosing herself. The town of Red Hollow watched her get slapped. Not one man moved. Not one woman spoke. Not one soul stepped in. Because in this town, some people were protected by silence. And some people weren't considered people at all. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just stood there, bleeding, and proud. That was the moment Cole Barrett stopped believing in minding his own business. 5 years earlier, that belief had cost him everything. A wife, a child, a home burned to ash. He told himself it wasn't his fault, that some fights weren't his to fight. But when their eyes met through that dusty store window, he knew the truth. Walking away would destroy him more than pulling the trigger ever could. What Cole didn't know yet was that the man who hit her owned the sheriff, the town, and a secret that could hang him without a rope. What the town didn't know was that this quiet gunslinger wasn't here for justice. He was here for a bounty. And by the time the sun set, one man would lose everything he thought he owned. One woman would walk free for the first time in her life. And Cole Barrett would be forced to choose between saving someone else or saving what was left of himself. Stay with me, because this story isn't about a gunfight. It's about the moment a man refuses to look away, and the price he pays for it. The slap cracked through the stillness of Red Hollow like a rifle shot. Not loud, but sharp enough to stop a man in his tracks. Cole Barrett stood across the dirt road, one boot hooked on the saloon rail, when he heard it. He didn't need to see it to know what it was. Some sounds carried meaning all on their own. A man striking a woman. Cole had spent most of his life learning when to walk away. At 43, he'd survived by minding his own business, keeping his hands steady, and never staying in one place long enough for ghosts to catch up. But when he turned his head toward Calder's mercantile, he saw her. Through the dust-clouded window, a young native woman stood frozen, her cheek red, her eyes dry. No tears, no pleading, just silence, heavy and proud. The man towering over her laughed. Cole's fingers moved toward his revolver before his mind could stop them. 5 years earlier, he'd failed to act fast enough. And 2 small graves back in New Mexico carried the cost of that mistake. This time, walking away felt worse than dying. Red Hollow was the kind of town that survived by pretending not to see things. The sheriff drank for free. The judge passed through twice a year. And men like Silas Calder owned everything that mattered, including people. The girl's name was Ayanna, which meant eternal blossom. At least, that's what her mother once told her. Now she scrubbed floors, stocked shelves, and swallowed pain behind Calder's counters. She'd been there since she was 16, working off a debt that never seemed to shrink. When the bottle slipped from her hand that morning and shattered, Calder didn't hesitate. Neither did Cole. The bell above the door rang as he stepped inside. Calder turned, sneer ready, then paused. Cole Barrett wasn't tall, but he carried himself like a man who had buried too many things to be afraid of one more. His coat was worn thin. His eyes were gray and steady, and the revolver at his hip had ended more arguments than words ever could. "You got a problem, stranger?" Calder asked. Cole looked past him, looked at Ayanna. She met his gaze for half a second. In that moment, he saw something he hadn't seen in years. Not fear. Resolve. That night, Red Hollow slept easy. Cole didn't. He sat alone with his whiskey, untouched, while the widow who ran the boarding house took the chair across from him. "You saw her," she said quietly. "Yes. You won't save her," the woman warned. "This town eats men who try." Cole stared into the glass. "So did Tombstone," he said. "Didn't stop the fire." The widow didn't ask what he meant. Some stories announced themselves by the weight they carried. At dawn, Cole tracked the rustler he'd come for. A simple job, $200. Dead or alive. But behind Calder's land, he found more than a criminal camp. Stolen cattle, hidden brands, a pipeline of corruption feeding straight through Red Hollow. By sunset, the rustler was tied to Cole's saddle. And Cole knew exactly what kind of man Silas Calder really was. When he returned to town, the air felt tight. Ayanna stood behind the counter again. Bruised darker now, spirit unbroken. Cole didn't waste words. "I'm here to settle accounts," he said. Calder laughed. "Then bring money." Cole laid down papers instead. Marshal notices. Witness statements. Evidence of stolen herds. And one more thing, Cole said calmly. That girl doesn't owe you anything. The room filled with townsfolk pretending not to listen. Calder reached for his gun. He never made it halfway. Cole's revolver rested against his forehead before fear could turn into courage. This ends, Cole said. Now. Iona stepped forward. Not behind Cole. Beside him. I was never yours, she said. For the first time, Calder had nothing to say. By dusk, Red Hollow watched something it had never seen before. Iona riding out free. Calder standing silent. The sheriff suddenly remembering the law. Cole rode with her until the desert opened wide. She didn't thank him. She didn't need to. I'm going home, she said. To remember who I am. Cole nodded. I'll ride with you part way. They camped beneath cottonwoods. No promises. No touching. Just quiet respect and shared firelight. You didn't save me, she told him. I know, Cole said. I just stood where someone should have. At the edge of her people's land, Iona stopped. I need time, she said, to choose my life for myself. Cole understood. I'll build something worth choosing, he said. Whether you come or not. They parted without vows. And for the first time in years, Cole didn't feel empty riding alone. 1 year passed. Iona healed. Learned. Grew strong in her own skin again. And Cole kept his word. A small ranch. Open land. Honest work. No letters asking her to return. Just one invitation, without expectation. When the wind changed, she listened. Cole saw her horse first. Then her. Standing in the last light of day, whole and unafraid. I came, she said, because you never tried to own me. Cole swallowed. That was the point. They didn't rush. They didn't cling. They stood side by side as equals, watching the sun fall behind a land that finally felt like home. Some stories aren't about saving someone. They're about not looking away. And sometimes, that's enough to change everything.